everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. I'm Dr. Jeffrey E. Berger, and welcome to season number 3 of the Holistic True Wealth series in collaboration with Mupo TV, part of Mupo Entertainment. And as the CEO of Abundance and Optimum Wellness and a certified holistic coach, I am of the belief we all should be living a life of abundance and optimum wellness physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially today. I'm taking a finance-first approach to achieving all-encompassing personal well-being by embracing new ways to true wealth in the modern world. And I have found that exploring diverse paths significantly opens the door to true wealth in every sense. And for those that don't know, today we're facing a paradigm shift that is revolutionizing our future in ways that are unprecedented. And to remain stagnant is to be left behind. And as a global ambassador for this expanding, internationally recognized high-tech company revolutionizing today's blockchain technologies, I am really helping those busy entrepreneurs navigate today's emerging technologies who are looking to diversify their financial portfolios for better returns on their investments by introducing them to ground floor breaking opportunities. And my mission, along with my guest missions, go beyond business by providing global-minded individuals with new ways to true wealth in the modern world so they can circumvent our broken and corrupt systems by going from financial fatigue or mental fatigue or physical fatigue to that freedom that is so much needed out there. And it's really about creating those opportunities, providing access, providing and building a more inclusive and supportive digital world, which encompasses the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial aspect that everyone has a chance to thrive. And that's what we're all about. Is myself and my special guests are about bringing that awareness and to these alternative solutions. And I'm really excited about today's guest that I'll be introducing in a few minutes here, but leading one towards that path of overall true wealth. And the mission really is to provide the real solutions for real people who are serious about wanting to go from barely surviving to thriving again. And if that's you, then you're in a great spot. So before I bring on my very special guest today, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and you will find this interview series in collaboration with Mupo Entertainment at mupotv.com, or you can actually download our Android or iOS app, because we're in 144 countries, seen on Fire TV, Roku, Vimeo, and we're also being considered to be picked up by Paramount Pictures in their syndication. So we will be right back. Okay, we are back, and joining us from New York, my old stomping grounds back in the 80s, that is my very special guest today, Caudia Marulanda. Is that how you say it correctly? Marulanda?
Marulanda, yes.
Marulanda.
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. And Caudia is a portrait artist, a graphic artist, and a workshop facilitator. And we've known each other for, I'm going to say it's got to be around 18 months. And you are exploding in the market. And, Caudia provides a space for playful exploration and emotional connection through art, which I never even thought was possible, but it is possible. And her story actually started years ago when she was struggling emotionally, searching for something to ground her, which is something that I was doing back in the mid 2000s up into 2018. And what she came to realize was it was as simple as art, and picking up colored pencils would change everything for her. And I'm excited for her to share that story today. And that's where her journey began. So today she creates art-based wellness programs, and I can't wait to hear more. I known, as I said, Claudia, for 18 months through the Hounds of Business, have to give the Hounds of Business a recognition with the King of Hounds, Mike, but she is my Hound sister. Welcome, Claudia, to season 3 of Holistic True Wealth.
Well, I'm excited to be here. So thank you, Jeffrey, for inviting me. And it's always great to talk about, holistic health and
Yeah.
wellness. So I love that. Thank you.
Awesome. No, thank you. So before we dive into the questions, share with our viewers who Claudia is outside of your business.
Outside of, well, there's not much life right now outside the business, but I would say I'm a mother of a Marine.
Thank you
Uh,
for his service.
you're welcome. Yes, currently he's actually right now in Hawaii. I also have I'm a mother of an old furry. What do they call it?
A
uh,
furry
but
four-leggeter.
yes, my little baby he's 18 years old, so now like I have to carry
Wow.
him out, so he's like baby size.
That's
So
wow.
I
That's awesome.
Yes, and I'm a woman that I would say through the last few years of my self development, I've become a woman that is more in tune with myself, with nature. So I love anything that is about nature, just even taking pictures of flowers. I enjoy that very much. I enjoy my art. And when I get a chance to enjoy time with friends, I really treasure it because I haven't had much time to be spending with the people that I love. And so that's just me right now. In a nutshell, there's not much more, but it's
No,
all
that hey, and don't use the word just. Or I'm not going to tell you not to use the word just. I personally am trying to get away from using just, because just minimizes
that's
whatever
true.
comes after just. And you are of value, and those individuals that you're surrounding yourself with are those people who you love and embrace, and that's important to you, and that's what's important. So, but thanks for sharing that. Yes, we don't spend a lot of time with our family and friends because of the way life is today. It's so fast paced, and people are working 2 to 3 to 4 jobs, and they don't have time to spend. And we're trying to enlighten people and try to look at other modalities that could potentially get them away from that, to be able to have that, because I didn't have it when I was working for corporate America, that work life or life work
Mhm.
balance, and which is really very, very difficult. So, for our viewers today, a little bit about your journey around the emotional struggles, and I have talked up the wazoo about this from my own journey, which is what many of us, I have come to find out, do struggle with. And share with our viewers today that journey from you personally, and where you started, and now how you've come into what you're doing today.
Yes, I will say when it comes to emotional struggles, a lot of us struggle emotionally and we don't realize that we're
Yeah.
struggling emotionally. That was my case. I used to live with like sort of like a constant sadness, and I just thought I was awkward, that I was different, but I didn't really know that there was more to it, that there was a deeper story surrounding that. So I always kept myself like separate from people because I just felt like I was different and I was very much numb to emotions at the same time. So
Yeah.
I didn't express myself, I didn't share myself like emotionally with other people. And I believe that's what kept me sort of like in that sort of constant sadness. I wasn't miserable. So it wasn't like I
Right.
was miserable, but there was always this thing that just kind of like made me feel less than, and it just made me feel sad. And it all came about, it's been a little over 10 years that I went through a really dark period in my life. So that's when my son decided to join the Marines. He just went like right after high school. And right before that, it had been the end of a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
So those two things, and then after that, I lost my job, which I knew
Oh,
that's
yeah.
when I was a graphic designer. It had been years that I had not wanted to get a full-time job. I had become a freelance art director, and they let me go because I didn't want to take a full-time job, and I just didn't have the energy, the desire to go and look
Sure.
for another one. So basically I was in a place that I was like completely lost. I didn't know who I was. And that place is kind of like, now that I'm saying this to you, it was like a rebirth. Because and that's when, like, I didn't even know like my identity, who I was anymore. But that place is what led me to my self development, is what led me to realize, oh, I am numb to emotions. I didn't even know that I was numb to emotions. I was oblivious to it. So it's like
Right.
I'm actually numb to emotions. And I realized that everything related to past trauma, to childhood trauma that I had repressed so much that I
Sure.
could never talk about it. So I think that's why I kept myself back. And it was really painful, and it was so shocking discovering this, because a lot of this discovery came kind of like on my own. Like, I did some programs, I read some books, and as I was going through all of that, it was like, oh my God. So I didn't really have much support. However, I always like to say we're never alone. And,
That's
we might
correct.
say God is always with us, or our guides, or the universe, or whoever it is. But during that period, I also had that desire to find my old pencils, find my color pencils, and start drawing. And it became a daily practice, because when I started doing that, it was like I wasn't feeling any pain. I was like, I'm not miserable. I'm actually feeling good. So I was like, I got to do more of this. So that act of engaging in art was
Hmm.
actually supporting me as I was going through all these changes, because it was a period of about, I mean, it's a long period, about 7 years going through all these
Wow.
self discoveries and dealing with trauma and realizing so many things. And I just find it that it was a way for me to get to know myself.
Yeah.
So getting to know myself, it has, uh, I would say, more than alleviated the emotional struggles that I went through, because I began to understand what emotions are and how to actually use them for my benefit. So,
Sure.
yes,
Sure.
I have struggles like any other person, but in a much different way right now than what I used to. And of course, I feel more joyful with myself because now I have let whatever traumas out. So,
Right. You've opened the doors.
yes,
You've
yes.
opened the doors to your soul, and now you're letting things in, you're letting things out. And yeah, it took me 40, like over 40 years to come to that realization, being a survivor of two attempted suicides and child molestation and chemical dependency and all that stuff. But what I say is better late than never. And
Yes.
that's the beautiful thing. And I really love your approach to the art as being medicine. And to me that sounds very holistic with your pencils you're using. It's a non-toxic, well, unless lead is
I
a
like
little bit toxic, but in any event you're not sticking something into your body. But that art factor, and when it comes to mental emotional well-being, how have you found that your clients are using this method of utilizing imagination to connect to themselves? And you talk about the rediscovery of joy and clarity of emotional well-being. How has that worked for a lot of your clients these days?
So the way it works for them is the same way it worked for me. And recently I told someone that art is sort of like a bridge to that
Yeah.
connection to self. That's where the holistic aspect is. A lot of people see art as something that we did as kids, and some of us didn't like it. Some of us were told we were bad at it. So a lot
Mm,
of people, what I noted, don't have good associations with art, or they remember liking art, and then at a later time in their life they feel that need to get back to it, sort of like me having that need to also take out my color pencils.
right.
So I decided. So, one thing that happened to me during my life process with art is that I used it for self reflection. And then it became sort of like a way to start envisioning the life that I wanted to create. And I also became very interested in that word imagination because it started
Mhm.
popping up in a lot of areas. Like Bob Proctor talks about it. He says something like imagination is not a child's game, is how we create. Neville Goddard talks about it, even Albert Einstein. So I became really curious. And putting all that together, I decided to create this program to create a conceptual future self portrait. I haven't run it recently. I'm planning to run it before the end of the year again. But it's more about like looking at your self image, because our self image is what creates who we are, how we think, how we express ourselves, that self talk, and a lot of it. So I invite women to use different art mediums to create this conceptual self portrait. And the one thing about art that a lot of people miss is not about, in this case, definitely, is not about the final art, but it's more about the process.
Process, right? Right.
What, how are you using it for self-reflection and so on. So women are invited to really look at their beliefs, how are their beliefs affecting their emotions, how is their self-talk affecting who they are, and then start recreating. And the
Mhm.
case, the imagination comes into play. And as Neville Goddard and all of them say, imagination is how we create reality. And I think a lot of us, even me, it took me a while to really understand that. It's like we don't really use imagination to create the reality that we want. We just let circumstances kind of like
Mm.
move us from one
Yeah,
direction to another. So we got to
right.
take control. And to take control, we got to use our imagination and,
Right.
think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go
No,
ahead.
that's absolutely true. Go ahead, finish up because I want to add to that.
Okay, so that's what I invite women to do. And just to show you an example of one case, so one of the exercises is using watercolors, and the beauty
Mhm.
about watercolors is that they do their own thing. So you got to let go of control. So we were doing an exercise about that. I like to just add circles to create sort of like boundaries, and then outside the circles, I tell them to add the watercolor and sometimes move the paper a little bit and just watch and let it do its thing and see what it's forming. So one of my participants, she moved the paper a lot, and that color just went through the circle and she got really upset. And that kind of like clicked something inside of her, and she realized like, oh my god, what everyone always says about me being so controlling is true. Like her family friends tell her to let go of that control. Then it sort of came back also realizing how it has impacted her life in a negative
Yes.
way. So she was able to discover that for herself on her own. So I'm just there to guide and
Got
give
it.
the
Right.
space. I don't tell people you need to do this, you need to do that. No, I just let them be with themselves, because that's why I say art is sort of like a bridge to that self connection. So they do the work and they allow whatever comes up to come up, and that's the realizations they come up with, or the things that they want to create starts coming up. So I think at some point you were talking about uh, a lot of us living in survival,
Right.
and that we need to thrive. So we live in survival when we're like overly stressed. We are in survival mode, but having that space to be calm, that's when we allow the creativity to come up. And that's when we can start thinking clearly and seeing things for ourselves and making the changes that we need to make.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct, and I agree with that. And the story that you just referenced, I'm pretty sure you did that on a LinkedIn post, if I remember correctly.
Probably,
You
yeah.
shared that story, but you talk about imagination, and this is what I say is that we get triggered, and when you get triggered, my experience has been, and talking with some people, we get into our uncomfortable zone, and we have to. I encourage people to start becoming comfortable in your uncomfortable zone, because this is where growth happens and imagination thrives. This is where you start. That is where that innermost self is reaching out to say, okay, what can I imagine to get out of this and repair it and fix it and move on, so forth and so on. But I love that, that inner relationship, and you bringing in the art aspect of it, which is, I never even thought about that until I met you. And it's like, wow, this is really, really unique. So with that, we're going to take a quick, short commercial break. I mentioned that I am a global ambassador for this, this blockchain technology that is revolutionizing the world. And it has so many different opportunities for people, because we are in an era where there is a paradigm shift today that is happening. And I let people know, just think about back 20, a couple decades ago, when you had Microsoft and Apple and Netflix and Amazon. They were introducing their specific technologies back then. Well, that's where we are today with blockchain technology. We're evolving. The world is changing, and to remain stagnant means to be left behind. So I encourage people to start getting a little educated, because it's take one step at a time, just like anything else. We'll be right back. Hi, it's Jeff. Hope you're doing well today. Imagine owning fractional real estate in different continents. Demeta One's 5 continents offer everything from virtual business districts to AI-powered educational hubs. Our real estate-backed NFTs give you tangible ownership in this digital realm. With Microsoft accreditation, Amazon Web Services backing, and a new Google partnership, we're not just building a metaverse, we're creating the next economy. Get in now, $200,000 to $500,000 with our on the ground floor opportunities. I'm hosting monthly webinars. Enter link to register for the next one that's coming up. See you on the inside. Okay, we are back with portrait artist, graphic designer Claudia from New York City, my old stomping grounds, and it certainly has changed since the 80s. We won't go there. We won't go there for another time. And I'm looking at the screen here, and I'm looking at you living up in the north. I'm living in Florida. It's summer down here, and I'm out every single day walking, and I'm looking at my face. It's like my face is like a like a watermelon, and I'm like, my gosh, the contrast. And I used to be like a Casper the Friendly Ghost, really, really, really white. But you know what? I'm getting my natural vitamin D, and that's what's important. So I can't believe we're coming up to the close of the show here. But I have 2 questions. But the first one is going to be, human connection was lost for several years due to the pandemic, which we are all grateful. It's we've moved beyond that point. And how have you found that your events, that you're, I'm just blown away by the pictures that you're sharing on LinkedIn of the events that you're starting to host. How have you found that those events really foster the connection, reduce stress, and support personal growth for, your attendees?
Well, it comes in different ways. So first of all, when we're in community, the stress comes down because we're happy, we're enjoying, especially of course when we are people that we align with.
Right. Yeah, of course.
So that's one thing. So the painting events, people begin to share deeper experiences. People begin to actually get to know their coworkers even a little better. Like I did one for Mental Health Awareness Month, that it was invited them to pour out any kind of like have a cathartic release. Sure. And then create something of beauty from it. One of the guys had lost his cat. His cat had died, I don't know, a couple of months ago. And when they were talking about it, the coworkers didn't even know about that because he didn't share that. Maybe he felt so sad. So that's how it helps, like you. And then when you share those things, you kind of like release the pain of what you're feeling, so you feel better. So it creates community. It does reduce the stress. And I feel like it bonds us a little more, because then we start relating to each other a little better, and it creates a greater connection, not only with the people around us, but we create greater connection with ourselves when we're true to ourselves. And when you can express yourself through art, typically, depending on the projects they're doing, especially with
Mhm.
the art events, my whole thing is
Sure.
using the imagination so they connect more to themselves as well. So it helps in a lot of different ways, and that just supports better mental health, because
Right.
anything that relates to connecting to ourselves, to understanding who we are and letting go and releasing all the drama, the
Sure.
stress,
Yeah.
the old beliefs, it just kind of like liberate us.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, bringing that cortisol level down and kind of leveling out. So for those of you who want to get in touch with Claudia, the scrolling banner, you can find her on LinkedIn and on Facebook as well. Plus, she has a ton of her pictures out there, so you got to go look at it. And speaking, Lola, the last question I have for you is, if there was one piece of advice that you could give one of the viewers or all of the viewers that would level them up to in their personal, professional, or a combination of both of their lives, what would that be? And while you're answering that, I am going to share this right here because this is some of Claudia's work. So take it over. Go ahead, Claudia.
Okay, I was just gonna share that. Yeah, the two on the side are like one of my early words that was helping me relieve the sadness that I was going through. One piece of advice that I would say is, do not underestimate the power of engaging in your creativity, because I hear a lot of women that they have that desire to get back to it, but they don't do it because they feel shame, like, I'm not good at it, too old for it. There are many excuses, and you might not understand why you have that desire, and that's sort of like your body speaking to you. So go with it and enjoy the process. Don't focus on like this has to be this way. Don't focus on being judgmental. Just let it be, because that, in my case, that's what I did. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to draw hair, and my work became about hair, because instead of saying, oh, like, oh, I'm not good at this, I was like, how can I do this? That's the where the exploration begins, and it can help in so many ways. I heard the story of this lawyer, this big time female lawyer, that being a lawyer is a really stressful job.
Right.
So one of her things that she would do is that when she was really stressed, she will just like go and take time away to just color. So it's there. The arts is not something just of beauty, which it is, but it's there to support our well-being, to support us in getting back to that grounded space. So just don't underestimate it. If you feel the call for it, it's for a reason.
I love it. I love it. Thanks you so much for sharing that. And for those of you who are interested, I do 5 monthly webinars to really just provide education around this, this digital space, if you will, blockchain technology. It's really helping those individuals who are, really busy, stressed out, and just don't have time. I provide some basic education about where the world is going because we are in a paradigm shift. And if you want to scan that QR code, you can register for one of my 5 monthly meetings. And I'm also on Facebook. I am also on LinkedIn as well. And you can search for me out there. And I want to thank Claudia for coming on today and sharing what I'm just like blown away by what you are doing from a mental health perspective around art. And I love your posts. I love what you share. And you are having a profound impact on individuals today. And that's what we need. We need more people like you who are sharing those types of outlets, which is what I showed in the beginning, is we're providing those vehicles, those tools to help people level up in their lives. So thanks again. And we'll see you all on the next time. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
was playing? Huh. You thought I was playing? Huh.